Welcome back to American Nostalgia Garage. Welcome back, guys. Today's video is going to be just a little different. We're going to give you guys a little bit of a look, like behind the scenes and what we do in between filming videos. So you guys may think in between videos that basically we're, you know, doing other things, family, work, and yes, we are. If you have kids, your number one job is to be a father and a husband, and that's number one. So I'll never put that aside for anything else, but basically between videos I like to work on like the other things that I have going on, and then something that happens often is I do a lot of like finishing of things that I didn't maybe get to do during a video. Basically what happens a lot of times is I will push and push and push and push and work on a video every day of the week. Some of these videos take 5, 6 days, 2 weeks to film. Some of these videos take longer than that and end up getting pushed in the schedule so that they'll get put up at a later date. But a lot of these videos are getting filmed a couple of days before they got to go out, or being finished up a couple of days before they got to go out, and I'm hammering on the job just to basically try to get it finished. My smart guys out there will know exactly what this is just from what's showing there. This is my buddy Ryan's car. It's a 55 Chevy 2-door. Check out his channel. His channel is Automotive Chaos. He does a lot of Tri-5 stuff, and he's got a lot of other hot rod stuff, so check out his channel. But since it's here at my house right now, it's mine. So anyway, basically what happens on those days that I have off or I'm not working on YouTube content, I may still be technically working on YouTube content, or I might be fixing my daily driver or the family car or whatever. So basically today is one of those days. Today wasn't going to be a film day, but I decided that I wanted to give you guys a look into what actually goes on when I'm not filming an actual video. Now, ironically, I am filming a video. You're watching it. But it's just going to be a video basically cataloging the things I do when I wouldn't actually have the camera filming, even though that I do have the camera filming. I'm not going to tell you guys what this is because I want to keep it a secret and a surprise for later on when we get it on the channel. But there's the profile of it, and again, my smart guys will know what this is. Keep an eye out for that on the channel. I also have these two things that need to be revived. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see me revive these on the channel. I know it's not necessarily our muscle cars and stuff that we usually do, but I have a lot of little projects on the channel that I want to do that are not muscle car related. These happen to be 2 of them. So let me know in the comments if you want to see these on the channel. Our Camaro's still sitting there in disarray. Well, what are we doing today then? You may be asking. I've got this in the garage today. Now this truck has actually not been up on the lift in this garage ever. I've done everything on this truck in the driveway here, which is weird because I have 2 lifts and I seem to be working on my back more than you would think I might be. Basically what's up with this truck is that this truck needs a tune badly. In order for me to get it to a tuner and then be able to accurately tune it, I've got to make sure that the exhaust is sealed, because these Holleys and other fuel injections, or all fuel injection setups, are really dependent on the oxygen sensor and its accuracy. So you really need to make sure the exhaust, at the very least, up to the oxygen sensor and let's say 18 inches past it, really needs to be really well sealed. If you remember when I put the exhaust in this thing, I just slipped it over the slip fit on the headers. I don't really like that because it didn't clamp well and it moves around a lot. It allows the thing to turn, and it really doesn't give me a very good seal right where the oxygen sensor is, which is in the collector. So we're going to put some V-bands on this thing. And another big thing is that aside from the fact that it doesn't have a tune, and in the essence of safety, Holley basically made the map so that the self-tuning was extra rich so that it wouldn't blow this thing to pieces. However, the timing was pretty crazy. It goes to like 36 degrees. I don't know why they would have that in the tune there. For, you know, 36 is good, but not for everything and not with a cookie cutter tune. Now this doesn't have muffler tips or any sort of dumps or anything. It just muffler and then that's it. It just dumps exhaust right out into the abyss. So when I put this window down, or even without this window down, what ends up happening is the eddy currents that are behind the car. Eddy currents are basically the movement of air behind a cavity after it ends, or something like that. You can have eddy currents in a pipe around the outside. Let's not get into that. But what happens is the dead space behind the truck ends up sucking that exhaust back in and goes right in this window, and it tries to kill us. The truck is trying to kill us. So the first thing I want to do is get the headers out so I can get V-bands on there and get it nice and sealed up. I'm going to pull the plugs out first, and then I'll put it up in the air. So you can see before I take them out, the oxygen sensor is here, and then our little coupler is right here. So if there's any leakage at all in this, it's going to throw off the reading here in this oxygen sensor. So here's something that you look for. See all this black marks here? This was leaking right here. So you can see all the soot. So that's why you got to avoid that. But in the effort of trying to get these videos done and get them out so guys can watch them, you know, this is just how it happens. So I'm just going to sand these collectors back so we can get a decent little weld on it. The header's got to come out in order for me to weld it all the way around anyway. But anyway, the point of this is to make sure that we have a good seal as close to the oxygen sensor as possible. If it senses oxygen seeping in from elsewhere, it's going to think we have a lean mixture. Because what the oxygen sensor does is it senses oxygen, and the more oxygen that it senses, the leaner the mixture is. Reason being, if there's oxygen left over that got through the engine and got pumped through the exhaust, that means it didn't mix with fuel. Usually because it's going to think that there wasn't enough fuel in there. But in this case, what would happen is the oxygen could get in from somewhere else and trick it into thinking it's lean. Now in turn, what happens is when it sees lean, it tries to dump a bunch of fuel, and then you end up with a rich condition and it just runs poorly. So you want this to be accurate. How we're going to do this is with these. This is a V-band. There's a clamp that goes around this and it smushes these two pieces together. Now these two pieces are keyed, and if you look, see if they're mismatched, they won't go together. And you see how they just clicked in? And now I can pull them side to side and they won't move. So these seal pretty good. You have to make sure you don't warp them. How I would normally do this is I would normally take this and I would normally put the face down on a piece of like 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch aluminum, so it would suck the heat out of this. But we're not going to do that today. But today we're going to make these. Alright, I got the welder fired up. First thing I'm going to do is make sure that I don't mix up, you know, 2 male ends and 2 female ends, because they won't go together. So I'm going to do one side at a time just to make sure I don't mix it up. I'm going to put one on here. I'm going to try to get it as flat as I can. Alright, I got our oxygen sensor pulled out just to make sure that we don't light it on fire or ruin it. Now I'm going to burn my hand. Alright, we got a pretty good tack on that. The one thing about stainless steel is that it pulls. So you got to be careful, because this is already pulled off to one side a little bit. Something smells like it's on fire. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to mock our piece on just to make sure that it will still fit in here. I'm actually thinking I might have done this backwards, or that at least it would have been better to do it the other way around, which would have been do this on a table nice and flat like this, and then mount the whole V-band together with the clamp with the other side, put it up against the other part, the header, and then tack it then. I might try that on this side. So I'm actually doing my idea on this side. I can still move this if I need to, but I got this mocked on here, let's try it. All right, it's gonna work. All right, we're gonna tack up our other side in reverse order. All right, now I'm gonna wrestle this thing, try to get it into a position that I like, and then get the tacks on the front. Now I have both V-bands clamped together so it doesn't move. How about a little bit of irony for you? This behind the scenes video needs its own behind the scenes video. I just spent an ungodly amount of time removing the old fuel lines from the inside of the frame because I didn't do that when we actually did this video for this truck. And I'll probably spend another 3 hours trying to get this header in. Alright, it's kinda in. I'm gonna get them both laid up in place because they go in from the bottom on this truck. And then we'll bolt them in from the top. You know, on the topic of the behind the scenes video, it's only us and other guys like that do this kind of stuff that can appreciate the amount of work that goes into our hot rods. And you guys know what I mean. But somehow, every once in a while, we're like the meanest possible people to each other, which is weird. Not a self-righteous moment because, listen, I'm guilty of it too when I see something that I don't like. But, yeah, it is amazing how much work goes into these things. Like I just said, I just spent an hour just trying to get this fuel lines out, and I didn't even get them all the way out. Alright, we're throwing our exhaust back in, finally. I did lose a spark plug. You LS guys know what I mean. This, the passenger side rearmost spark plug is really fun to get in. All right, got it almost back together. We got to cut down this exhaust just a little bit, the straight part, so that we can get a hanger on the back of the muffler up to this part of the frame up there. I don't know if you can hear me. There's like Decepticons and Autobots having like an all-out battle royale outside my house here. So, you know, just ignore it. So what I want to do is I want to get this part of the muffler lined up with about this part of the frame, which is where I'm going to weld my hanger on. So, looks like I need to take off about 6 inches of this pipe over here. If I take 6 inches out, that'll bring the end of the muffler to where I need it to be in order to line up with the frame up here. Alright, here's what we are trying to achieve. This part of the muffler is now lined up with up here, which is where I'm going to weld my hanger. So let's get started on that. This is what I'm going to use. It is some universal hangers off of Amazon with some rubber stuff off of Amazon. Now I've just got to figure out what length I need this to be, and this in order to get the height that I want, which is about here. I have the pole jack holding the muffler up there where I want it to be. I have it clocked up front. I have it pushed all the way forward. So the muffler is where I want it to be. I just need to get a length of this. Alright, I got one side of the hanger mocked into place. Just going to zap it in. All right, here's the second half of the equation. I actually have it going, I'm going to weld it here, and it's going underneath to support some of the weight so it's not just on the weld, and I'll weld the bottom. If I could get a nice curve, or if I wanted to get my torch hooked up, I probably could, but we'll just do it like this. This works. Little piece of advice when you're welding thick stuff to thin stuff, like the hangers 3/8 to the mufflers, like, you know, whatever, 16 gauge, is start on the thicker metal first, and then kind of walk the puddle onto the thin stuff. Otherwise you'll just blow a hole in it, because you need to set the welder up basically to weld the big stuff, and kind of just like you know, sprinkle in the little stuff like, you know, ingredients in a martini. Now that I have the muffler the way that I want, I'm going to tack this joint together now that it's clocked properly. Finished product is V-band. Comes down to a muffler. We got our hanger up there, and it's welded to the frame up there. And then I just added this little 45 just to give it like a turn down. Hopefully that exits all the exhaust out that way and we don't get choked inside the car. Now I've just got to build the exact same thing on this side, and then we're good. All right, well, there's our exhaust. Goes all the way down to the front. This is what I mean about the behind the scenes stuff. For reference, that was probably like 2-3 hours of work, and really it was just like some finish welding of stuff I couldn't get finished when I filmed this video originally. And it's stuff that does have to get done, but really it kind of lingers because you move on to other projects, you got to get a video out. So now I'm filming something else, let's say, and this is still got to get done. So all the 5 or 10 or 1 million little things that you leave from a project, or as a YouTuber, or as a person who's doing YouTube videos, all the little things that you don't complete because you're trying to get the content up, it's got to get finished at some point. And then there's days like this. Like I said, I'll just do these little things. But for reference, that was like almost 3 hours. And you would have never have seen it unless you make a video like that. Again, on the topic of the behind the scenes video needing a behind the scenes video, I was just going to bang this out. I have 2 injectors that really aren't firing very well, and let me show you what I found. I just blew some air through them, and look at this thing. Look at that. That's just stuff. No good. The problem that we're having is that these injectors were originally run in this car, Hitman, and Hitman runs ethanol. So those are automatically, those are difficult on fuel parts and fuel injection parts and fuel hose and stuff like that. Then the truck, before we got it, was actually converted to a diesel. So we ran the tank, we got the tank as clean as we could when we converted it back to gas for the LS. But there was still some diesel in there, and if you go back and watch that video, I had to drain a bunch of diesel fuel out of it, and it was still coming out sort of orange. So these injectors have had a rough life, so I'm not really mad at them. But let's clean them, throw them back in. Alright, well, you just saw that the cylinder temperatures, at least the EGTs, with a quick thermometer, are not all even close to each other. Forget being low or high, they're not even close. So I'm going to take all the fuel injectors out again, and I'm going to clean them all again. The reason why I'm doing the fuel injectors versus the plugs is because I just put plugs in it recently. So they should be okay. So let's pull all the injectors out. We know that 2 of the injectors at least were gummed up. One of them is definitely clean because it's nice and hot. But we're going to take all of them back out and clean them again. Guys, these things are full of crap. And no, I don't mean like your brother-in-law. Look at that. This one too. I don't know how much you can see of it, but I mean, you can see that there's stuff on there. There's not supposed to be. Let me get these cleaned out, throw them back in. Much, much better. Well, how about this for behind the scenes? This truck runs, and actually runs pretty good. We cleaned out the fuel injectors, as you saw, but it runs better now. Now all of a sudden the fuel pump doesn't want to run. And now I think there's issues with that fuel pump. I have to do the old BFH therapy in order to get it to turn on sometimes. So I think it's getting stuck. And it's not old, so it really shouldn't be bad, but whatever. Happens. But I'm noticing that the relay's not clicking. So this is something that happens. Like, you don't have to be doing a YouTube channel just to have this issue. You guys know what I mean. When you're working on a project, something works and works and works, and then it doesn't. Sort of the idea that I like to do with my projects is I like to shake them down on the street for a while. You know, short drives, you know, in the vicinity of your house. That way, if you get stuck, you ain't that far from home. You know, and then you just keep some good walking shoes, you know, on. These are not good walking shoes, these are boots, but, you know, visual effect. That way, if you need to walk home, you can. But anyway, this is the kind of stuff that happens when you're working on cars. You just, you know, something works and then doesn't. This is not something you would have seen in a video, because I wouldn't have put this up. Now I've got to tinker with this for a little while. Doesn't really make for very good content, unless you guys are interested in that, you know. Comment if you're interested in seeing all the little diagnosis stuff and things that go on. But you know, when you're building hot rods, a lot of little headaches. So all right, super simple. I'm going to use my test light. Make sure you get a good ground. Now I'm going to make sure that I have power at our main power. We do. We're going to make sure we have our switched power, which we do not. This wouldn't be on right now anyway, but the car's not running. So what I'm going to do is actually return the key again and see if I can get it. Yeah, nothing. It's not trying to prime the vehicle here. So did we lose a switch? We must have lost a switched voltage in here somewhere. Let's do some homework. Before I move on, I'm actually going to check my ground from the relay here. Alright, so this is just checking my ground circuit actually right now. You know, just make sure. So I'm going ground where the relay should be, the ground for the switch to turn this relay on, and I'm just using the actual power for it. And then I'm just using the power for the actual relay itself. And it's good. So our ground's good. Our regular power is good. Our output should be good. That is going to be this green wire to the fuel pump. But we're not getting switch power. Alright, so here's what I think is going on. Test light's good. I'm going to rest that right there on my little pin that I have coming out of terminal A2 on the computer. I'm going to click the key on, and it's not going to light. Yeah, the test light's not coming on. So I'm not getting any juice out of pin A2 on the computer, which is not good because that means the computer itself is not triggering my fuel pump to come on, which I'm not thrilled about. What I'm going to do is, I already jumped the relay here. Let's do it again. I don't know if you can hear it, but the fuel pump is on. You know, that obvious, we know that's going to work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the relay back in, and then I'm going to trigger the positive side of the trigger on the relay and see if I can turn it on by forcibly giving that wire juice, just to make sure. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check continuity from here to there just to make sure that this pin and the wire itself in the loom somewhere didn't break. And basically I think I'm condemning our computer at this point. So, and this is a closed off wire. This is not a loose wire. You don't wire it. It's supposed to be good for 10 amps, which should be way more than enough to trigger this one little relay. The power is actually being carried by the other circuit within the relay. So let's do a little bit more testing, and then I don't know what we're going to do with that computer. All right, guys, so try to avoid using paper clips if you can. Use these little hair pins, but if you need to, a paper clip works. It's just, you just don't want to shove it in there and spread the terminals out. So anyway, I got it into our switched, turning the relay on, and our power, and I'm just going to arc them over. We know our ground's good because we checked it, and then our green is our output. So I don't know if you're going to hear the fuel pump, but we're listening for the click at least. And it comes on. So we know that I probably should have unplugged the computer when I did that, but whatever. So we know if we get power at this wire, it's going to turn the fuel pump on. So at least from here, the rest of the harness from here out is fine. So now I've got to test from here to here. So let's do that. All right, so you guys have seen me do this before. I've got the meter out. I've got it on our continuity mode. It also has a beep feature if you want to turn it on so you can hear it when you have continuity. So we're going to go to our 1 pin here, and the other side of the wire goes to the computer, and it is a good wire, which means the computer is not turning our fuel pump on. Now I'm just going to follow back the wiring diagram on my phone and see if there's what's supposed to turn that on, but it's a computer. It might not tell you that. So we know we're getting our switched, which was originally what I was suspecting, our switched power, but I checked that. It's good. We're getting our switched power in. So I don't know what's going on now. Yeah, there's our switched power there, just for reference. Yeah, we have a little bit of a service charge on the battery because I've been trying to send it to the moon. Hey, how about this for behind the scenes? I have to call Holly now. This would be something that would never make a video, but I have to call Holly and try to see if I can figure out what's going on with that computer. I guess tech support, I'll go back and forth with them, tell them what I've checked out and whatnot, and I guess they'll tell me if I need to send the computer in. But not really good for video stuff. So this is another thing that could happen. And I'm sure you guys have had stuff like this happen before as well. All right, well, the computer's got to go back to Holly to get fixed. So let me show you another thing that you guys might not see on the videos. I mentioned the dirt bikes, but actually my background, for the most part, at least, you know, my recreational background as far as, you know, off-road stuff is mostly in ATVs. This right here is our workhorse around the house. It has a winch on the front that I basically pull all these trucks around and stuff with, and you know, I have a hitch on the back that I hook up the log splitter and pull things and whatnot. And then my little boy likes to jump on the back and we, you know, ride around like lunatics. I'll show you something else. This is actually where I started, go-karts. There's another go-kart over there. I'm definitely going to be putting these things back together to get them back on the road. My son's 3 years old. Pretty soon he'll be wanting to ride these things. And to be quite honest, I want to ride them. So that's another thing. If you guys want to see that stuff on the channel, you know, leave a comment, let me know. But I have go-karts, dirt bikes. I got some other quads back there that need to be gone through. So if that's stuff you want to see on the channel, you gotta say something, you know? Moving things around is another pain in the butt. My driveway where I work, right outside the garage. So right outside the garage, you do a lot of work right here. And that's because the part of the driveway where I do all the work is only wide enough for one car. Really, I think probably my whole driveway is really only wide enough for one car. It's got a little circle in it, but it's really a pain in the butt. So basically, anytime I want to get anything in or out, I have to move something because the cars always sit here. This is where I park them. Sometimes forever. Just kidding. We're going to get back on that thing. It's getting fixed. But yeah, this is where things sit. So, or where I park them. So when I need to move something, I inevitably need to move at least one car. A lot of times they don't run, like the Blazer. The Blazer I had to move down the driveway. Now, my driveway is also on a hill. So basically, I needed to be moved down the hill so I can get the Nova back in the garage because I don't want that sitting outside. And the Blazer is going to sit where it sits for probably 3 or 4 weeks, it sounds like, from Holly. I'll probably pull it back up with the four-wheeler, but for now, it's just sitting there. So just another big pain in the butt, and it just ends up being a time suck that I'm not going to show you guys on the video because it would just be a waste of time. But that's what these behind-the-scenes videos are for. Well, like I've been saying, basically what needs to happen is everything else also needs to happen while you're trying to film these videos. So, you know, little house chores, doing some firewood. Winter's coming. You know, New York winters get pretty cold. Yeah, I know. It's not Canada. It's not Wisconsin or Minnesota or any of those super cold states, but it does get pretty cold here, and I don't want to pay for oil. So there's my oil right there. But, yeah, you got to fit everything in. So we take a break from the hot rods for, I don't know, a little while. I'll turn my brain off and do this. One of my favorite things to do. All right, well, back to work, and this is the last thing we're going to do for today. And no, I'm not taking a nap. I am laying on the ground because when you have a lift, you try not to use it. So I've got to adjust the shifter on the 72 that you guys have seen, Project Hitman. So here's what we're working with. Pretty standard shifter lever. Basically, the idea is have it move in and out of the hole nice and easy in every position. So I'm just going to move it back and forth until we get a nice position. So as of right now, the shifter itself there's a little bit of resistance on it, but it's pretty free. All right, so we haven't moved one position. It's actually even kind of tighter there. Yeah, it's even tighter in this position now. Go ahead. All right, so we moved it pretty much through most of the positions. Now we have it so it's all the way, the shifter is all the way forward. Problem here is it's not lined up with where the actual cable is. So if I pull the cable out, it springs the shifter forward into the position that it wants to be. So I'm going to loosen it, kind of split the difference sort of, and try to get it to move in and out of that hole nice and easy. All right, we got to get the hood on this thing. So what I did is I put a piece of tape so I don't have to draw on the car. The bracket, I'm going to mount a bracket that comes off of this tubular radiator support and kind of comes out here, and we'll put the hood pin right in here somewhere. So I line this up so that I can get a mark. So what I'm going to do is make a line right where the end of my pipe ends. The angle of the camera is playing weird tricks, but anyway, that is lined up vertically. It's lined up with the inside of the pipe like that. So I want my bracket to be somewhere in here. Now I've obviously got to make sure I don't drill a hole or plan to put it, you know, right over here because I can't put a bracket here. So maybe somewhere here. It's also probably going to have to come up and out a little bit. The other important measurement is it looks like it's about 3.5 inches from the pipe to the hood. And the hood pins themselves are probably about 3.5 inches long total. So the bracket itself is going to have to probably come up and then flatten out to like where the hood will be, that hood line. So it'll be flat with this surface like the hood would be. Also have to make sure we don't put it in the area where the bump is on the hood, because you can't put a pin like that unless you want to put a 37-foot pin through the middle of the hood. So we're going to aim for something symmetrical on both sides. Probably somewhere around here and over there. I don't know that I need 1/8 inch steel, but I don't really have any other stuff. Somehow I'm running very low on steel supply. So this is what we're going to use. What I'm going to do is put it in the vise, hammer it over, and try to get like a small angle. This steel is 3 inches wide. The hood pin itself does not need a 3-inch plate, so I'm actually going to cut this in half, and then I'm going to lay it, each one of the pins sort of in the middle of that. So 3 inches, half of that would be, yeah, so 3/4 from the edge, 3/4 of an inch from the edge is where the middle of the pin is going to be, and I'll split this in half. I'll get 2 brackets out of this one bent piece. Safety squints, engage. Alright, here is our tab. I just rounded the edge off just to make it look nice. I may add a gusset to the bottom of this at some point. Just got to see how this works. So now the decision is, do I want it lined up with this pin in the front, or do I want to make it aesthetically pleasing and put it in the middle of this space here? I don't know. Alright, we're going to kind of plan this what looks like in reverse. So I came up with the position I want them to be in, took a measurement. These are just reference lines. From this line to this line is 10.5 inches. And then, so I know I want it to be about 10.5 inches from here. And we already know our horizontal line is this reference point. So now I'm going to be somewhere, probably somewhere around there, to hope. So let me see if I can get our tabs mounted to ballpark in this area, and then we'll move from there. Now I'm going to take our 10.5 inch measurement and transfer it to the bar, which is what the tab is going to be mounted to. That'll give our center of where our bolt hole is going to be. And then I'll tack the tabs on, see if I can land them in the hood, and then I'll final weld them. Alright, we got them both landed without drilling 1,500 holes in it. This one is spot on where I wanted it to be. This one is a little bit off, but I still drilled the hole properly. It just I didn't get it exactly on the mark that I planned on. But you want to know something? By eye, you'll never know. So yeah, that's that. Now I've got to bring the pins up, and we can adjust it so that the hood will stay on. There you have it, all 4 hood pins. The hood ain't going anywhere. Nowhere. So that's done. You guys know how it is. You know, you guys at home with your hot rods, you know how much work this is. If you guys like the idea of this video, the behind the scenes stuff where I just show you the boring stuff that I probably wouldn't put in a main video. If you weren't too bored and you enjoyed the video, drop a comment below, let me know that you liked the video, and I mean, I guess we'll do more of them if you like them. If you hated it and you hate me and you know you're just angry now because you watched this video, also let me know. I'm good at taking advice and criticism. Anyway, we just got a bunch of work done. We still always have more. Thank you guys for checking into American Nostalgia Garage. Get out there and work on something old. Later.